Welcome to Brainstorm 9000.
You got a brain? Your brain wants to listen to this podcast.
So open your brain.
Oh, yeah.
It's a deep dive. Deep dive. Better stay alive. Better fantasize. I'm your fantasy. Come to chill with Hermes. Like the shorts in the car. Oh my God, we got it yesterday. You know we give it up. Oh my God, we got it yesterday. I'm never giving up. Oh my God, I got the best today. It's coming in my brain. Brain tech 9000 and I do it insane. Like I got 9 texts.
Intelligence.
Intelli Mac like
Intelligence.
Intel. Processing on the Mac. You know?
Intelligence.
In cells. Like
Intelligence.
in cells in braille. Like I'm Stevie Wonder.
Intelligence.
Giving hell on the braille. And I'm
Intelligence.
see me in the mail and I'm at your front door and I got the allure and I got the awards.
Intelligence.
The awards that come with defeating the computers. And yeah, I see it in the future. I'm seeing in the past. We come to chop it up. We come to make it last. We get it with a blast. We do it hella fast and I'm leading the whole class.
Intelligence.
Class is in session.
Oh, yeah.
I just need the oh yeah every time, bro. That's how you do it.
So, the oh, yeah. Say it again.
Oh yeah.
So,
Kool-Aid man in the
this is
official guest.
this is part 2, or maybe Hermes can say it in French. Part 2. Partie 2. And we call it the deep dive. And so we are diving together with our guest. Can you introduce yourself a little bit?
My name is Nick Gonzalez. I am a software engineer tech lead at Google, and I'm from New York City, baby.
So you know what's very interesting, oh baby? I'm from Moscow. Where are you from? Hermes, from Olympus, right?
From Olympus, yeah.
I just keep saying that because it sounds funny. Olympus is like a camera.
You do that to people all the time. You're like, oh, where are you from? Milwaukee. Could you say it again? It sounds funny when I hear you say it. Highly offensive to us Olympian people, you know.
I don't mean to offend you or anything like that.
Cool. It's the damage is done.
Yeah. So, you know, I always like super smart people from Google or from the Silicon Valley introduce themselves as what kind of engineer?
I'm a software engineer.
Software engineer,
Yep.
they say. And it turns out that their IQ is like 1,055.
1,000.
Yeah,
It goes out?
No, it doesn't.
Oh, okay,
but,
cool.
you know, they have this.
Us low IQ
My-
people
my-
were just shocked when we just hear any number, yeah.
So, while you, Hermes, were hanging with gods on Olympus,
Yep.
And finally descended, and we had so much fun with you at the end, we were trying to talk about all different aspects of artificial intelligence. But why don't you ask me? Dr. Charles, like, why do we keep talking about artificial intelligence? Ask me.
I mean, I was assuming it's because
Right.
you have some kind of robot plot to take over the world. He's like talking to the printers around his office, like, yo, we almost got him. But yeah, no, I am actually, you know, very intrigued at this point. This is like, I'm showing up week 4 in a row and we're still
Right.
diving into artificial intelligence.
Well, my reason actually is very selfish. The last time I checked, I'm human. I actually had an MRI of my head done a few months ago. It contains brain.
Wow.
So I officially can tell you I have a brain, and it's kind of okay, at least superficially. It doesn't have any major issues, superficially, right? And then I also had EEG done, so they recorded the electrical activity of my brain, and it kind of looks kind of almost normal. So my concern is that a lot of software engineers like you, Nick,
Mm-hmm.
and even more so like people like Eng, you know, there is
Andrew?
Andrew Eng.
Yes, my boy Andrew.
I'm gonna need
you know,
somebody-
Elon Musk.
Andrew Ng he was a professor at Stanford. He may still be there. He's one of the leading thinkers in artificial intelligence and pattern recognition.
Oh,
Right.
okay, we were talking about him. I
Right,
think. Yeah,
right.
always good.
And then of course Kurzweil. Do you say Kurzweil or Kurzweil?
I say Kurzweil, Kurzweil,
Right.
like the piano, right?
So you say potato, I say potato with a Russian accent. What do you say? Kurzweil.
Petito, actually,
Petito,
is how it's
yeah.
pronounced.
And in French, potato is it's like
It's,
apple.
Pomme de terre.
Yeah, pomme de terre.
Yeah, apple of earth.
Yeah.
Something
So
like that.
as you can see, I'm provoking Hermes because he does speak French, but he tries to hide it. Are you French? Are
Like
you French?
I only speak enough French to talk to attractive French people, but like
Yeah.
in real life.
So
I don't
all you need to say is "je prêt," right? And then,
speak.
which means I'm ready. That's what- All right. So anyway, so what scares me actually is that software engineer people or people like, for example, one of my favorite people on earth right now, Elon Musk, who I listen to all the time, like scared me because Elon Musk constantly talks now about the fact that since he couldn't convince anybody in government that they have to pay attention and start developing certain rules of how it needs to be regulated, we are basically letting it go. So if you can't fight it, you might as well join it. And the best way to join it and kind of at least be at the same level with it, he could figure out, is to create what he calls a Neuralink. So, Nick, do you know much about Neuralink?
I could imagine what that means.
Okay, so can you imagine? Let's imagine together.
So why don't you give me a little bit of background, and then I'll put it together with everything else I know.
So, what I understand about Neuralink, and Hermes, feel free to
Add my vast knowledge about Neuralinks. Yes, yes.
is that so? Elon Musk says that look, while we are processing with our brains pretty fast, and we are doing okay there, artificial intelligence, from my understanding, while it can do things very fast, we have 100 billion elements in our brain. So it's either each neuron is a computer, which I personally don't believe, but my colleagues do, meaning they say it doesn't need anything. I say that it's hardware and it needs software. They say absolutely not. So let's say it's different computers. So it's a network of 100 billion computers, or it's a network of 100 billion elements in one computer, right? So it's still kind of outdoing computers, but when it comes to the rate of exchange of information and input, we are extremely slow. So we used to be pretty good. We used to type with 10 fingers. Now we use only 2 thumbs, right, with text. So Elon Musk says that if we continue at this rate of information exchange, then artificial intelligence is going to just neglect us. So he suggests to create a wide band, high-speed connection between our brain and artificial intelligence, computers, and or let's say Google, because Google is like larger than a computer, apparently, right?
It's larger than life. Yeah.
Right. So he says that this way, at least we are going to be at the same layer, level, and he calls it a third layer of our brain. So the first layer is what he calls a limbic brain. We have a limbic system. If to make it very simple for everybody, that's what regulates everything when we are talking, thinking. So we are not thinking, like, for example, we are sitting here and we are maintaining a particular posture. We are breathing, we are sweating. It's hot in this room. We are doing a million things. Our digestion is going on. Everything needs to be monitored, right? And we are not aware of it. So that's limbic system. Scary enough in computer world, these engineers have their own term. They call it ambient computing in computers, because our computers or our cell phones also silently do stuff.
Absolutely.
So that's your limbic system equals ambient computing, right? And then we have prefrontal cortex, with which we think. So in order to keep up with computers, Elon Musk suggests to create a Neuralink, which is going to link us up, like literally link us to with wideband high speed to, let's say, Google or everything else. So that's what Neuralink is. And there have been experiments done, apparently. I mean, once I had a glance at the guy who runs it for him. He's a neuroscientist from somewhere. I mean, I don't know who he is, but at least I saw a picture. I never heard him speak. So tons of experiments are going on. So what do you think, Nick?
So I think it's interesting, right? So the problem he's trying to solve with the Neuralink is one of human-computer interaction,
right?
Where we've got a two-way communication with the machine that's much faster than we can do physically. So I think it's interesting. I think it's a great area to research. I don't think it has anything to do with what we're talking about with AI and ASI for that matter, right? It's we're dealing with what, a single machine.
ASI is artificial superintelligence that does not exist. Nothing to be scared of at this point.
Okay.
Not yet.
Not yet, yeah.
You guys made a term for it, which makes me think that it probably
Yeah.
exists, but
Well, you know what though? I think the interesting thing is that we're afraid of all these big government organizations and companies and stealth organizations building this. But
Speak
it could
for
be
yourself.
It could be done by some kid in his garage, right? So
I read in a pretty scary book that I would like to discuss with you, and I know that you've been reading it, Nick, and it's called Our Final Invention, right?
right.
Which is one of the books that is highly recommended for reading by Elon Musk, and that's how I got to read it. Scary stuff. So the author actually asked somebody about what you just said, right?
Right.
And the thinking is that it might not be so, that there could be some problem there.
What with
One person, a lot of people say, cannot do much. You need a group of people because it's a very, you are nodding your...
I disagree.
Okay. You think that one person can do it?
Yes.
just need a brawly person.
So in a very similar way, right, that Alan Turing,
Right.
was almost singularly responsible, all right, for building the first computer.
Let's remind
Right.
people who he was. So you could have seen a movie about him.
Right. There was a movie about him. Alan Turing was a mathematician
Right.
that worked for England during World War II. And the problem we were trying to solve at the time was cracking the German code. They were encoding messages back and forth.
Oh, I seen that movie. And
yeah,
he's trying
yeah,
to get with like the lady scientist the whole time.
And then he turned out to be gay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No. Yeah,
That's the one.
I do remember.
But this is what I think it's going to take, right? And
So
this is
it
not
was called The Imitation Game, the movie.
right,
There we go,
because
yeah.
the reason they call it the imitation game,
Right.
is because there's a famous test that Alan Turing proposed
Right.
called the Turing test to see if we've achieved AGI, artificial general intelligence.
Listen, I tried to understand this test. I can't. Can you explain it?
It's simple. I mean, there's
Simple.
there's a lot of different variations of the Turing test,
Right.
right? But the basic premise is I'm in a room where I can't see anybody else, right? There's 3 people in another room, and I'm communicating with them, and I have to tell you if it's a male or a female, or if it's a computer or a person. And if the computer can fool you into thinking it's a person, then the computer wins, right? Now we've achieved human-like intelligence, according to Alan Turing. That's the test. So that's the imitation game. Can a computer imitate a human being, right? And fool someone into thinking that it's a real person?
What is your take on that? Because like in my head, it's like if I can pretend to be anything all I want, like I could pretend to be a pro quarterback right now. It doesn't mean I'm actually a pro quarterback.
Can you?
Whoa.
Can you say something as if you're a pro?
I mean, like, I really don't want to rush things right now because my agent says, I got to keep my form right and everything.
Right.
We have a deal going through right now. Might sign to the Jets this year, But I'm trying to keep my head focused, you know what I mean? I've been working on this a really long time. So, like, that just makes me a fraud. I could say that all day.
Right. But
Wait, is that my Turing test?
if I know that industry, I know what's your agent's name?
Oh, Sally McFay.
Oh, Sally?
Yeah.
Oh, I know Sally. Would you
Yeah.
over at her house on Saturday?
I mean, I try not to go over her house anymore. She gets kind of, whacked out. She's been off the scene for a long time. But
I hope
she's
it's,
back now.
Right. She lives in an RV, dude. You're full crap.
I'm-
Right. So
Yeah.
that's the imitation game.
Right.
Right. You have to know the subject matter.
Yeah.
Right. And yes, you're absolutely right. So, and that's why computer scientists today kind of look at that test as it's not so much proof, because we could probably build a machine that can answer a bunch of questions convincingly like a human, but it doesn't really know anything.
Yeah.
Right. So it depends on the questions you ask, right? How convincing it is. You could do it with a trick, right? But you could also do it, right,
Like
for
do
real.
it. Like really.
Right. So then the question becomes, right, or always has been, what is intelligence? Right? How do we know when we've achieved it? right? That's the first question. Like, what does it really mean to be intelligent?
What does it mean to be intelligent?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just that I feel like that's really what you're poking at, because everybody talks all the time, and I feel like the past 4 weeks we've been focusing on this idea that these robots are going to take over. But like, is the robot even helping us solve like our most complicated problems as humans, and being able to like intuitively teach itself new things or tap into new databases and use machine learning to, like, if there was a machine smart enough to recognize patterns, to go through the data that already exists in the internet, parse information, and then deliver that information back to you in a way that was cohesive as a human.
Right.
Like, oh, like what chemicals do you think would help us like with this disease? And it could just like accumulate information that we couldn't and spit it back out to us. I feel like, is that intelligence? Because it does what it tells we want it to do, even if it does it at a really high level where like the machine talks to you like a sexy girl at the bar or something, to the point where like it convinces you it's like really like a human.
I'm pretty
like,
sure it's happening already, actually.
I mean, you know, I fall in love sometimes, you know, with these New York City girls, and I swear they're robots on the inside. That's a whole separate episode. But like, is that intelligent to you? Does that really make something more like intelligent in a human way, or is it really just good at executing tasks and learning new information based off the task?
So I'll tell you a scary situation in my life. I'm going to come home tonight, and my 2 cats are going to meet me at the door. What's amazing about them, by the way, that about 20 minutes before any one of us shows up at the door, they're already standing there, and I'm in the process of editing a movie about it. Because apparently they have Wi-Fi or
GPS tracker
or GPS tracker or something like that. Yeah, and when you pet them, like, you know, when you want to connect a new device to your Wi-Fi, you can hotwire it by just pushing a button. So maybe the cat comes to you, you pet it, and that's a hot, like, you know, it happens. But
I feel like a track photo.
Yeah, but what they are going to do, though, they are going to demand, like, meow at me. And so I pet them. My function, and I'm kind of a little bit intelligent, right? I'm a psychiatrist, I'm educated, but all they want from me is for me to pet them and feed them. It also would be nice if I allowed them to sleep with us in bed under covers, because they do it like humans. It's very funny. But that's about it. But we are capable of significantly more. What is good about me and everybody who gets to meet my cats is that we'll never hurt them, although they sometimes become very disturbing. My problem is, because I want to come back to why I initiated all this conversation, is that everybody's talking about artificial intelligence and how it's going to outrun us. I'm still to hear someone, and I'm not saying I'm the only one, but I'm the only one I'm aware of, and I could be totally ignorant of other people, who is actually discussing what is happening right now with our brains and what is going to happen. Why all this, with due respect, software engineers and Elon Musk, probably at that time on Mars, developed these things to the fullest extent. I mean, we played around with Siri today when you were hanging around with gods on Olympus. Right. But this is kind of like a fun game, and it's very convenient. But what if we start to coexist with intelligent something that is not human? Nick, is anybody looking into it that you know?
Well, so we're already coexisting with machines, right? Our lives. Everybody, you walk down the streets of New York, everybody's attached to their phone.
Yes.
Right? Information, right, is at our fingertips that once, 20 years ago, right, most people didn't have access.
We are, as Elon Musk suggests, I agree, are already cyborgs.
We are very much augmented.
But no one is doing anything about it. Like, what specialty is supposed to help me with my brain to adjust?
I think that's
like no, but like, who do you go to?
There is
Instagram. Twitter.
Instagram.
You find your group of internet trolls, and you complain about whatever bothers you about the internet.
And then you know what? So people kept telling me, watch Black Mirror, watch Black Mirror, watch Black Mirror.
No, I think you would go off the deep end.
So I actually this weekend, after all the July 4th activities, we are recording this episode before you guys are going to hear it, because we need to edit it. It's not live. So We are recording it a week after, right?
You broke the whole illusion.
No, nobody thought that. Come on, we are not. Yeah.
Told the kids Santa
Yeah,
wasn't real, bro.
yeah. No, it's real. It's
Christmas,
real. We are
Oh,
for
it's
real. Yeah.
We're
So I watched the episode in which. Have you ever seen any of? Black
I love
Mirror?
Black Mirror. I haven't seen the new season, but
So-
I have not seen the new season either.
So do you
Everything's
remember?
full.
I saw season 3 or something where everybody points phones on each other and rates each other, and there is a girl who has 4.2 rating,
Oh yeah.
and then she needs to get 4.5 to get an apartment
Mhm.
that she really likes, and winds up actually losing everything. Right?
Mhm.
Remember?
Mhm.
So then I'm thinking, well, Uber.
Mhm.
I take Uber. I rate the driver. The driver rates me.
Right.
I order on Seamless, Uber Eats. I rate them. I use
Yeah.
Yelp.
You
Which
do,
is-
oh, you're one of those. Do you write like nasty reviews?
No, but I already learned, by the way, so you know that if I were to write a nasty reviews, it gets posted right away.
Yeah, no, yeah. They put you on blast. They want the world to know.
I'm on
how-
ZocDoc, which is an app to find a doctor,
Right.
and I have a pretty good rating. I have over 250 reviews, but some people write nasty reviews on me. Like, for example, give me 1 star just because somebody at the front desk that they didn't like, or they came for me asking me to prescribe drugs and I didn't.
Right.
Right? I had
It says in the review, did not prescribe drugs fast
no,
enough.
no. It's no. In the review, it says don't go see him because he's a nasty guy. He doesn't listen to you. He didn't respond to my needs. But what I'm saying is that we are already living the life of Black Mirror.
We are.
What is the scariest episode for you, Hermes?
The scariest?
Or the one you like?
I really like though. There's one where it's about like immortality, I think, where it's spoiler alert. I guess I'm ruining the whole episode. You don't really find out to the end. But it's like you see this lady and she's living through like clearly what's a paradise like life in a vacation town, and like it seems
Oh,
like
yeah.
mid 2000s or like,
Mhm.
and then she jumps to another time period and it's like the 1980s and 1990s, but she sees the same crowd, same people. And
Right.
she's like going to a bar and partying and leaving, and you find out eventually that basically they have the technology now at that point where people that they're trying to say lived in our times, because you would know the 2000s and the 90s and stuff.
Right.
Like by the time we're at the end of our lives, they'll be able to put your brain in a simulation where like if you die, you die. But if you know you're about to die or like terminally ill, you can
Right.
choose at that point to just put your conscious in this simulation that just simulates different time periods. And it just becomes like adult high school or senior citizen high school. But it puts you in a body of you in your youngest form.
Right.
And it's like the whole episode is about like this old lady decides she falls in love with a girl, and I think she was like gay as well, but like hid that in her real life, and she
Right.
was married in real life. But she meets a girl in the simulation, and they
Right.
give you like a week trial,
Right.
and she's deciding whether to go back into real life and just die
Right.
or be in the simulation. I don't know. It just blew my whole mind. It was like the most helplessly romantic, gushy episode ever. But, like the thought of like, do I die? And like I have a commitment, I have kids.
Right.
They have like husbands, both of them, like in real life, but you're
Right.
all gonna die. So do I just say F it and just go to computer land and just hook up with this new person and never die? Or do I like stay here where people love me, I guess?
Right. Nick, what is your favorite one?
I think that's an interesting one actually
Yeah.
as well. Wow. There's so many.
Well,
good
I saw
ones.
only one.
No, I've seen them all. I can't, but
Yeah, I've seen
I
those
can't. If somebody started saying what they were, I'll remember them.
The plot lines are just so like crazy. It's like
They
in a
are.
world or blah
So
blah. You're just
listen,
like,
so
whoa,
we
yeah.
already have some access to virtual reality. I've never experienced it seriously, although you can go B&H Music and they have like the whole thing.
Yeah.
You can try. So we have virtual reality. We are already cyborgs. We use all this stuff. We are
Mhm.
recording in the studio using headphones. I constantly check stuff on Google, or
Mhm.
for example, if I forget something. So my memory is already enhanced, right? My visual memory is enhanced. My knowledge base is expanded. But I'm telling you, seriously, do you guys think, the two of you,
Yeah.
that we do need to start processing not only this very exciting stuff that computer engineers are doing, like you, Nick, with computers, how to develop, and you speak very deeply, very interestingly. I'm very pleased to hear what you have to say because you have an understanding that I actually didn't expect from a techie. But shouldn't we be talking about us? We are about to disappear.
You think we're gonna disappear?
Well, I think that that's a much bigger question. right? About what's our purpose, right? As an individual, I know I'm going to disappear. I expect to disappear, and because I expect to disappear, it gives my life value, right? So I can experience the here and now and be here and enjoy things because I know I might not have it tomorrow. If the human race were on that same trajectory, I don't know. I don't know what that would do for us.
But if you are not going to be around tomorrow, why the hell do you care? Because you are not going to remember anything. You know, I had a patient actually who was in college and he did some shrooms. And he
Always the start of a good story.
And he suddenly realized at age like 22
Right.
or 21 that even if there is life after life, if there is reincarnation,
right,
you are not going to remember your previous life.
Maybe not.
Did that just come to him in a message on?
Well, no. So
Way.
he became despondent. He became very depressed,
right?
Because he was into reincarnations and stuff like that. And all of a sudden, it turns out, who the hell cares? You like you don't remember anything from your previous life. I remember I studied yoga very intensely with a grandmaster, and one of his favorite students used to tell us, guys, just remember, nobody lives this life alive. So you need to live your life to the fullest extent,
right?
Because you are going to die, right? Because when you study yoga, you talk about reincarnation and stuff. Yeah, but you need to have a life. You can't wait until the next reincarnation to do something. Which brings me to ask you, and please each answer, because it's very interesting to hear what you think. So now we learn that there are exchange systems. Like, for example, I asked Hermes to send me some audio files,
right?
And he used an exchange system which is called
WeTransfer.
Yeah, WeTransfer. Okay, I use Google Drive. It's a cloud in which I can store a lot of stuff.
Right.
So it turns that computers, even if there is at some point superintelligence,
right,
will be able to store itself into the cloud and then access information anytime it needs. Maybe we have this capacity too. We just don't know how to use it. Is it possible?
Absolutely possible.
So it blurs a lot of lines and kills a lot of arguments against God, spiritualism, soul, and I keep saying it because it's mind-boggling to me. In my last year in the psychiatric residency, it's 4 years, I was a chief resident, and of course I had to give a pet myself on my shoulder, right? And you have to present. Each resident has to come and make a presentation in front of other psychiatrists during grand rounds. Lots of people get together. And I made a presentation at the end of which I said that I believe that our brain has hardware and software. The chairman stood up, took the time to stand up, come to the podium, pat me on the shoulder and said, we all love Ed, people knew me. But he said, Ed, no. There is no dualism here. The neuron does everything itself. And I'm thinking today, so if the neuron does everything itself, why the hell do we need 100 billion?
Right.
Right? And if you have 100 billion elements in the brain, don't you need to manage them? Doesn't there have to be a software, very sophisticated software? Nick?
I believe so, yes. I think there's a lot we can learn from studying the brain and the neurons. But to me, when you look at that, it looks like a computer, right? It's like a circuit board with electricity flowing through it. If I open up a computer and look at the circuit board, I don't learn how Windows works.
No.
Right? There needs to be something.
Provided you don't know that Windows does exist. More than that, you say, stupid, there is no Windows, okay? There's no Windows, or how do you call this, Apple, or OS, iOS?
Operating system. Anything.
Yeah, you say, no, stupid, there's nothing like that. Like, this computer does everything by itself.
I think that's ridiculous. I do. Because I think that whether the software emerges, right? There's some kind of seed within us, right? That starts off very simply, right? And then the software emerges and becomes more complicated over time.
Or unzips.
I mean, we're learning machines, though.
You like?
Yes, the vocab words we got over here.
Which is what? Unzip?
Unzip, yes.
Unzip.
I got you. Reveals itself?
Right.
No,
Yeah.
too far.
No,
I like
but
it.
no. But you send zip files, right? Like I
Yeah.
received a file from you. It's zipped.
Mhm.
So unzip.
Yeah.
See,
They were shy at first, and then they got a little more loose.
But I think that intelligence, artificial intelligence, if we're going to get it right, should recreate the way intelligence works, right? And I think intelligence is based on a simple set of rules, right? That when applied recursively, like against each other, it grows and gets smarter. So we're born with a very simple system, a very simple operating system
Right.
that gets more and more and more complicated as we grow. And that's what I believe. And that belief helps me to do my job better. So I will continue to believe.
Hermes, you are God. So what do you believe? Hermes.
Being a god and everything, that means like I'm not really caught up with y'all human problems. So
Do you
when
feel-
the robots come, I'm just gonna go back to Olympus.
Do you
know?
feel like singing a little bit about this stuff?
Singing about how the humans are gonna die and how
No,
I'll
and,
still
and
be
like
good
and like
afterwards?
software and cloud
And software and clouds.
and cloud and zipping
I mean,
and unzipping.
I'm always down to sing.
So
too.
let's do the bit. Yo.
With money, could we loop the beat back around again?
Dr. Schultz is going to do the beatbox.
You gonna start beatboxing?
Yeah, you know
With
what?
money.
When he told me that, I didn't know what it was. So what am I supposed to do? Like give
Yeah,
it.
like that's the beat right there. Ooh, chilling in the cut. Ooh, I'm trying not to curse, but I'm getting kinda nervous. I got another verse, keep me kinda feeling worthless. Cause my brain don't work as fast as a computer's. But it's glad to say I still knew you. Can we speed up the beatbox in a little bit? Now, Charles, you want to get my ad-libs real quick? Because there's two beats happening at the same time. Yo, he's really good at that. Ooh, hey. So we got some brain tech. We don't think AI will be the last straw, but it be the last floor. And I got the last floor coming for the last claw. Pulling at my brain again, I got the neurons and the protons and electrons, and it thinks through my thoughts, and I got hella Jones, and I do it with my pawns, and I treat it like a pawn, the way I control my mind and stay up on my grind. And yo,
He's good. By the way,
Trump
guys,
solo.
Nick, brains of the internet.
Multi-talented.
Yeah.
You know, when you're smart, you just do all kinds. And that's growing up in New York. I can break dance too.
we
Yeah.
should have brought the cardboard out.
Oh,
And they
man.
could just hear the sound effects, bro. And no, he's cutting up. Next time,
do
next
you-
episode.
You
You
have
got
the board?
Do have
Well,
the
I don't
board?
got my pain. These jeans are kind of tight. I'm wearing my dress shoes.
Right.
Just prepared right now.
I see. So can we wrap up this very insightful conversation by maybe agreeing with me that it's not that it's not that crazy to suggest that probably our brain has both hardware and software,
Yeah, I don't think it's that crazy to suggest.
Hermes?
I think it makes a lot of sense.
right? Hermes?
Yeah, I feel like we spend our lives just like rebuilding the stuff we already see all the time, and then
Right.
swearing it's like some kind of new crazy invention. Like we can see termites build like a termite plant hill that's the
Right.
size of New York City relative to the size of a termite,
Right.
or like technically bigger than things we would even make.
right.
But then when we achieve the same thing, it's like, oh my God, the greatest thing in all of nature. It's
Right.
humankind. We're the only
Right.
people doing these things. It's like, no, us making the computers, the machines, the little brains that work in our pockets is just us mimicking the thing that happens in our heads every day. So
you
yes,
agree-
that was my long poetic way of saying yes. It's the same thing.
Okay,
That's
so
very well said.
so then
Thanks,
listen. For example, Nick works for Google.
Mm.
Elon Musk works for himself, has like 500 different companies, and so there are organizations, there are specialists who take care of this business. I'm suggesting to create a new specialty. I called it brain technology,
Right.
which is going to take care of the technology of the brain, not necessarily to help out computer engineers and program engineers, although if it's a byproduct of doing that, I'm okay with that. But to help our own brains, because we are about to go into a total frenzy once we hook up with wideband, high-speed connection.
I
Right.
don't know what's that's going to drive us crazy.
Right.
I don't know if I want it.
But like, do things like, you know how like when the future comes, you think it'll just work perfectly all the time. I remember like when I was first getting like Bluetooth headsets,
Yeah.
you're thinking, oh, it's just gonna be Bluetooth. I can speak wirelessly, and then like
Right.
you walk past a construction site, you go past like
Right.
another
Right.
radio signal, and all of a
Right.
sudden you realize
Right.
how much it drops out. Like, is it
Right.
one of those things where we think it's gonna just drastically be integrated into our brain, like all this different levels of technology? I'll never have to.
But
type
it's going to be
again.
too late. Like
But it
pretty-
only works half the time or something. You
No,
know,
no, no.
like the Wi-Fi is always down.
But pretty much the same way Elon Musk says that, look, we already missed the point to limit what artificial intelligence can do and cannot do. I'm saying that we already missed the mark where we should have started working on issues that our brain is facing today and is going to face in the future. So that's why we are talking so much, and I prompted, right? I make us talk so much, I have to admit, about this stuff because I'm very concerned, and I hope that the brains of the internet will help. So on this note, I'm going to say I'm very tempted. Keep your brains wide
Open.
Yeah. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Brainstorm 9000. If you like us, love us, or marginally tolerate us,
And definitely, if you hate us,
then go on social media and give us a review on Stitcher, iTunes, or YouTube, or wherever you listen to us.
and remember,
Keep your brains open.